Hello, and welcome to week 2. This week, as promised to you last week, we're going to accomplish two things. I'm going to go over the information that you'll need for your critical research paper, and we're going to look at the book of Hosea. I'm going to take 2, maybe even 3 weeks with the book of Hosea because this is a very important book, both theologically and important to Old Testament history and theology, as well as the implications that it has on into even New Testament studies. Plus, I wrote my dissertation on the book of Hosea, and it just happens to be a personal favorite. So let's start by looking at your critical research paper. I've assigned both of you the very same topic. You are both going to be writing on the theology of the book of Amos. And if you'll look at week 2 under lessons, you'll find that I have copied for you a very large file, and in this file I have either 3 or 4 commentaries on the theology of Amos, and this should give you all the material that you need to write the heart of your paper. So this is what your paper is going to look like. It must be in Turabian format. Both of you have sample papers from previous semesters with me on what Turabian format looks like, free to access the ones from our previous classes together. So you have that. I'm not going to give you a sample paper because this is so straightforward and my instructions are so clear, I really don't think you need one. So what you're going to do, you'll give me a table of contents, and your table of contents must be in proper Turabian format. Then you're going to give me a brief introduction. This paper is going to be 5 to 7 double-spaced pages, and it must be written in a Times Roman numeral font of 12. So no exceptions from that. And remember, do not justify your margins. You cannot write Turabian with justified margins. So you're going to give me an introduction. Your introduction is going to introduce me to the book of Amos and give me the historical context for the book of Amos. You'll be able to find that information in Ochtmeyer. I think even Heschel addresses it a little bit, or any Old Testament survey like Hill and Walton should contain that information. So you should find ample information on the historical context. Then the body of your paper, you're going to talk with me about the theology of the book of Amos. There are probably half a dozen to maybe even 10 possible theological themes that run through the book of Amos. I know you can't write on all of those, so I'm asking you to select 3 major theological topics or theological strains in the book of Amos and write on those. Let me give you just a couple of them. The sovereignty of God is a major theological theme that flows through the book of Amos, as well as the day of Yahweh, Yom Yahweh, another theological theme. And social justice is even a third theme, and then there are additional themes to those. So you will choose 3 of the 6 to 10 theological themes that flow through the book of Amos, and you will address those. You'll identify those themes, you'll discuss those themes, and remember, I'm only asking you to do 3 because the paper's only 5 to 7 pages, so you can't address all of them. So you'll identify your 3 theological themes, you'll discuss your 3 theological themes, you'll identify the importance of those themes for Amos's culture, and then discuss the importance of those themes for us today, their contemporary relevance. Then you'll conclude your paper, and then you'll give me a bibliography. I'm asking for footnotes on your paper, and make sure that your footnotes are in proper Turabian format. It's very simple, very straightforward. I've done your research for you. So all you have to do is work your way through the research and make your notes, draw your conclusions, and write your paper. It's really just that simple. And I would recommend both of you, I would really recommend any student, make certain that you have someone proofread your paper before you turn it in to me. And it needs to be someone who is up to date and is qualified to look at the grammatical elements of your paper, because I'm going to grade very rigidly on those particular things. Now, that's your paper. You already have your instructions with your grading rubric and your research posted on week 2 of Populi, so that's already done for you. So you're a go on your EOOs. You're a go on your critical paper. The only thing that I haven't given to you is some commentaries on the book of Amos. I'm sorry, on the book of Joel for your second EOO, and I'll have that up by week 3. So there we go. And then you need your study guides for your quizzes. And by the way, I don't think I mentioned this in week 1, but our quizzes this semester will be multiple choice, not essay. I think, Anthony, most of your quizzes with me were essays, and I think yours, Pebbles, I think yours were essay as well. So this is going to be kind of new for you. It is going to be closed books, so you'll have to study your study guide and be familiar with that, and also be familiar with your lecture notes. So let's jump in to the book of Hosea. What I would like to accomplish this week is to just give you an introduction to the book. If you were to look at the book of Hosea from the Masoretic text, which is the Hebrew text, you would find that the older documents are very difficult to read through. This is probably some of the most difficult Hebrew to translate in all of the Old Testament, because much of the text, or I shouldn't say much, some of the text is what we call corrupt. And when I say corrupt, I don't mean that it's wrong or anything like that. I mean that because of age and just the damage of the copies that we have, some of the letters are missing and even some words are missing. So translators do the best that they can to come up with the most reasonable letters or words to place in there. And I think for the most part, historically, they've done an outstanding job. The book of Hosea can be divided into 2 distinct sections. The first 3 chapters are going to deal with the tragedy of Hosea and Gomer. And of course, we know that Hosea is going to symbolize God and Gomer is going to symbolize Israel. Israel, much like Gomer, has prostituted herself, and Hosea, much like God, has done everything possible to redeem and restore the relationship. In chapters 4 through 14, this is the second section, you have the message of Hosea. I think a great indictment against the church of the Lord Jesus is that we have so focused on the first 3 chapters of Hosea that most Christians are quite ignorant of what's in chapters 4 through 14. So chapters 4 through 8 deal with Israel's moral corruption. Chapters 9 through 13, much in the same venue as Amos, inevitable judgment. And then chapter 14 is a prediction of repentance and restoration. Amos doesn't give very much hope for restoration, but the book of Hosea opens the door of restoration and leaves it open for the northern kingdom. There is a certain eschatology, and of course eschatology means the study of end time things. There's a certain approach to eschatology that the prophets use, and it's quite simple. They declare the corruption of their culture. They announce that the Yom Yahweh, the day of Yahweh or judgment, is going to come. And then after judgment is over, there's going to be an eschaton, a golden age, a time when God restores his people to himself. Now, Hosea the man, his name, Hoshea, means salvation. He shares that name with 3 other biblical characters: Joshua, Yeshua, Isaiah, Yeshaya, Hosea, Hoshea, and Jesus, Yeshua. They all 4 are the same identical names, just pronounced a little bit differently. And their name means Yahweh is salvation. Hosea is going to focus on the love of God. He is the prophet of mercy in so many ways. Hosea is passionate, and the love that he has for Gomer, which typifies the love that God has for Israel, is a love that will not be quenched, a love that will not be thwarted in any way. The father of Hosea is Beri, and according to Jewish tradition, Beri is a prophet as well, but there's no way to actually confirm this. There is a Bera mentioned in 1 Chronicles 5:6, and he's a prisoner of war taken into captivity by Tiglath-Pileser. Gomer, a lot of Old Testament scholars, and I tend to agree with them, that Gomer is not a proper name, but Gomer is a nickname for a common prostitute. It would be like calling someone a skank. Skank is not a name. Skank is a designation for a woman with less than upright morals and character. And there's a host of other nicknames that we use for both men and women that have a character or a reputation that's not upright and outstanding. So Gomer would not be a proper name. It would be a nickname. The father-in-law of Hosea is Diblaim. His name possibly means fig cake. And this is important in the worship of Baal and the fertility rites. Chapter 3 mentions raisin cakes, and it does appear that Gomer's father was a worshiper of Baal. His name could also be a shortened form of Diblaim, and Im or Yam is a major Canaanite deity. And every indication that we have from the text of Hosea indicates that Diblaim is indeed a Baal worshiper. Now, the first child between Hosea and Gomer is named Jezreel. And Jezreel has both negative and positive implications with regard to the meaning of his name. As a negative, Jezreel is not a translation but a reference back to a geographic location or an event in history. It's basically the beginning of the end. And it reflects the point where God and Israel are breaking away, are breaking covenant with each other. Jezreel reflects the time when Jehu cut himself off from God in 2 Kings 10:32. Now, on the positive, Jezreel means God sows or God plants. So, again, much like in the translation with Amos, I think that Jezreel has both positive and negative implications. On the negative, God is breaking away, but on the positive, God is going to sow or restore or plant again. What has been plucked up will once again be planted. Now, their second child mentioned is Lo Rahami, and Rahim in Hebrew has two meanings. As a noun, and remember, a noun is a person, place, or thing. As a noun, Rahim means womb. As a verb, which is an action word, Rahim means to pity, to have mercy, to have great compassion. So Lo Ruami, Lo is the Hebrew negation. It means not to be pitied, not to be found with mercy, no compassion for this person. Can you just imagine naming a child, I won't pity you, I will not have mercy on you, you will find no compassion from me. The third child is Lo Ami. Ami means people, and of course Lo, not, or no, not my people, a declaration that God is going to look to Israel and say, you're not mine, you're not my people, I break covenant with you. Now, Jezreel is certainly the biological child of Gomer and Hosea, but with Lo Ruami and Lo Ami, there's question as to whether those are the biological children of Hosea, that these were children that Gomer became pregnant with through her adulterous relationships. Again, there's no way to really prove or disprove this, but the biblical material does give indication that these probably were not Hosea's children. Now, I'm going to stop there, and I'll start back with video 2 in just a moment.